Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to summarize for you the meeting that I have just had with the bipartisan leaders, which began at 8 o'clock and was completed 2 hours later. I began the meeting by making this statement, which I think needs to be made to the nation. America's public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse. In order to fight and defeat this enemy, it is necessary to wage a new all-out offensive.
And there it started. With those words of President Nixon in 1971, began the efforts of numerous countries around the world to wage war against drugs. While it may have been a valiant attempt to solve such a massive issue transcending different continents at the time, the 46-year war has yet to end, and society is on the losing side. Experts in the field of criminology believe this to be the result of different factors. The ridiculous amount of taxpayer money in the U.S. that's been wasted in this endeavor. The development of illegal criminal gangs that profit immensely from trafficking of drugs. However, it seems the biggest problem lies in the policing methods different countries use to address the drug trafficking organizations. One reason for the system of failure with the drug war is the slight differences in policy that were adapted by European countries after the U.S. became the first leader in policing techniques. Their investigative techniques, including undercover operations and intensive surveillance, were spread to the law enforcement agencies of Europe by American law enforcement officers. These methods were looked down upon at first, due to the aspect of compulsory protection, a common part of European judicial systems, where a prosecutor has to press charges when there was sufficient evidence. Such a policy in European courts also mitigated the European law enforcement's intent to use their inside source to eventually find the head of operations. There were also existing disagreements between the strategy of attacking the heart of criminal financial operations and then splitting the shares that would be claimed from arresting the drug trafficking organizations. However, with the countries who often collaborated with the U.S., they'd have differing techniques and opinions on the U.S. techniques depending on the country's governmental efforts to defend their own national sovereignty. As a result, countries like France, Italy, Great Britain, and Germany all had somewhat agreed to become a part of the global coalition. However, each country had its own incentives from protecting their nationalist pride or its foothold in either the European or global economy. While countries in Europe believed they were utilizing the same methods as their neighbors, it seems as though the slight differences in policies could have been a factor as to why world powers are still losing the drug war. Another instance of inconsistent policing towards drug trafficking exists in Iran, due to their next-door neighbor, Afghanistan, organizing the flow of opium production through Iran, causing there to be a huge addiction spike among the Iranian citizens. The inconsistency lies in the changing of policies from president to president that are completely polar opposite. Throughout the drug war, the techniques are either use of an aggressive paramilitary or very progressive non-violent solutions. Because of the inconsistency in policing, there is never a formulated system of helping to stop drug trafficking in not only Iran, but other countries in the Middle East. Throughout the 1980s, the war on drugs in Latin America focused on stopping the scourge of drugs at the source. Latin American governments were strongly pressured by the United States to intensify their drug control efforts, producing a narcotization of diplomatic relations. U.S. drug control strategy has historically included the idea that a balanced approach is needed to address the supply as well as the demand side of the illicit drug equation. Empirical analysis suggests that this balance has been inappropriately weighted more toward the supply side, however, and policymakers should correct this historical imbalance by focusing predominantly on demand-side solutions. While many believe the solution to drug trafficking might be just drug legalization, there is a drawback to this. The legalization of one product in the black market, like drugs, could leave criminal organizations now focusing more attention on global prostitution business and the human trafficking that helps to provide the subjects for it. And in those cases, such acts should never be legalized. It seems the key is to put aside certain countries' pride and unite in this global epidemic. While it is understandable for countries to preserve their own attitudes in this war will only be won with the cooperation of all nations.
Waste of money, a huge waste of humanity to imprison people by the hundreds of It's this policy of prohibition that's causing the violence and empowering the cartels.